I'm not okay with this.
You better be. All right. So Josh Blossom, thanks for being here. So Josh, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What is it you're doing today, and how you met Blossom? We'll start there.
Yeah, so I'm 34 years old and I am a junior Android developer.
All right. Sounds good. I like it.
Coming fresh off the Red Robin career track as the world's greatest assistant general manager.
You're talking so loud.
Oh, it's good. If anything, Blossom should be louder.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Yeah. So basically over the pandemic, I realized that before too, but my job sucked.
Yeah.
And so I had to get a different job. So I started learning to code. Now I'm an Android developer. And I hang out and I just listen to electronica and code all day.
So you're acclimating well to the new nerd lifestyle then.
Yeah, no, it's great. If anything, it's just hard. We live in a very small house with a lot of kids and a lot. It's two, but it seems it's too
So many.
Too many.
15 children here.
Uh-huh.
So balancing those two things is the hardest part. But yeah, no, I love this job a lot.
And it's a step up from what you were doing previously, which is, I think, what, robbing banks?
Yeah. So in 2015, I got out of prison after.
I was standing outside the prison waiting for him to walk out because that's how I found all my dates at that period of time.
Yeah, just came out shredded from the pull-up bar.
Yeah.
Push-ups all day.
Big
She was
fat
like,
neck. Yep.
yeah, she said my neck was fat.
His neck was super fat,
And that's
like
what
when I
she's
first
into.
met him, and it's not anymore, and it makes me mad.
You had those traps, the
No,
thirst
it
traps?
was just
No,
literally
she
like
said this
fat
part.
neck.
Somehow
Oh.
this part was the.
Enormous. That's the kind of shit I'm into.
You're like a nice thick neck, huh?
No, now it's scrawny. It looks like a little fucking toothpick.
Well, this is moneymaker. You gotta be careful.
But yeah, I spent 4 years in there for robbing banks, but that's not actually how it's started.
Right. Well, it never really just starts that way. One doesn't wake up in middle school and go, you know what? I'm going to knock off a bank
No, he
today.
did. When he was, how old were you when you told your parents that you wanted to be homeless?
Oh, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and homeless was my go-to answer for a number of years.
All right, so you like freedom then. So I'm getting
Yeah.
I'm getting a theme here.
But, like he was like 17 when they were asking this. Like this was not a young kid just dumb. Well,
No,
So here's what we could do. Let's start with the moment. Start me off on the day that you decided that you were going to rob a bank. Like you knew for certain that this is something you were going to do and you made up your mind. Let's start at that day right there.
Yeah. No, well, one, let me paint the picture. It's like
Please, by all means.
the
paint
guy
the
that
way.
you see here today is fairly clean cut, pastel
God.
colors. But at one point,
salmon colored fucking shirt.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I had dreadlocks down to about here. And I was definitely like just living the festival lifestyle, fish, disco biscuits, just out there getting crazy. Basically doing every drug I could get my hands on.
Just hanging out in the lots, just eating dirty grilled cheese sandwiches and
Yeah.
goofballs like some dirty hippie. Yeah, got it.
So I could eat dirty drugs.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
But yeah, so at some point, like I just realized I was like, man, I don't have enough money for this.
Interesting.
Because I would sell drugs sometimes, but
Just casually, as we all do.
but I wasn't very good at it because I did too many of them. So I didn't tend to make money, and people would trust me and give them to me, and I'd be like, let me get you back a little later than you expected, and it just wasn't. I wasn't didn't have a good head for business.
You weren't the entrepreneur. that you
No.
are. No.
Yeah, I was the consumer, totally.
Yeah.
And somehow got the keys to the store. But
All right, so were you on tour when you decided to when you started to put your plan into action? Were you hanging on a lot somewhere? You at a festival? Were you at your apartment?
So I was actually like in some off time in Montana.
Okay.
Off time
Yeah.
from your lucrative career.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I was in my off time, and I can't remember exactly. I think I came across something on the internet where it talked about the amount of people that or it was like the insurance thing, how insurance was teaching the tellers to basically say yes if there was a bank robbery. Like if you asked for money, no teller is going to say you no, because from insurance, for their purposes, it's way cheaper to cover 10 grand than it is a hospital bill. So
Or a funeral.
or anything else.
Yeah.
Like it's
Or a
ridiculous.
settlement.
So then I started looking into it, and I was kind of like, wow, like a lot of people just walk in and walk out, and they're just never found again, and it's not a lot of money or whatever.
The dumbest thing ever.
But yeah, so
But the whole thing is dumb. The whole system is dumb. I mean, I could see where he's coming from. I mean, it's not, listen, if you're strung out or you just got done being strung out in the middle of a lot and you've been eating dirty
This
ass
man
grilled
was
cheese for
completely
18
sober when
months.
he did this shit.
That's not
Right.
true. That's not true.
No, not completely.
Or no, I was saying she said I was sober when it happened, and I said that's not true.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so I basically was just like, it's got to be that easy. Like, I think it's that easy. And I kept trying to come up with why it wouldn't be that easy. And I couldn't. And so I basically just convinced myself. And so like, I had like some masterful plan, like, oh, I'm going to wait for like a snowstorm. So, like the cops' response time will be delayed. And I will look for like there's Google Maps at that point. It was like, you could like Street View had just kind of like, come onto the market, so you could like look at stuff. And I was like, oh shit, like I can see there's this bank on Pound, and it's like right next to some woods or something,
And real high-tech operation or something.
Yeah,
Very state of the art.
But they so eventually like I woke up, it was snowing one day, and I was like, today's the day. And I literally like I had
Okay, let's stop right there for a second. Okay, I know you probably told the story a bunch of times. So today is the day. You wake up, it's snowing, you're in the middle of Montana. Nobody knows or cares why. Who gives a shit? There's not anything. There's only two things on in Montana. You're either doing drugs or, you're selling drugs to people or you're killing people. Like, there's only three things going on in Montana. There's really nothing else going on. You're either buying things in the woods that are coming across or you're dumping things in the woods, right? So there's really not much else going on. So you wake up in Montana and you go, Eureka, today is the day.
Yep.
So like you just woke up knowing like today's the day I'm going to rob this bank.
Yeah, it was snowing out, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing it today for sure.
Did you have any roommates at the time?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of like, there was like a big sort of party house that I kind of stayed at. Like it was a room that was mine basically, but I don't know, it wasn't.
Didn't you live with your girlfriend?
No, not at that point.
Listen, there have been many women.
Yeah, no, so that actually happened. The thing about this is like the very first time.
I know there's so many to just flip. I get it. Go ahead.
There's so many floozies. You got to understand.
No. Like the very first time that I like robbed a bank, like that was that was before.
Yeah, this was his Monday through Friday job, and then he just sold the drugs on the weekends.
Right.
So either way, she's so disgusted right now. She's like, look at this piece of shit.
I feel that way anyway. So
yeah. So I literally like, I just had gloves, I had a mask, I had a black hoodie, and I had black sweatpants that I had purchased earlier. So like, that's how premeditated this was.
Did you purchase them with cash? Did you use like a credit
I
card?
purchased them cash, and I purchased them, and like some of them I like just found and like, like had somebody was at somebody's house. I just took it. I don't know. And
yeah,
so,
he didn't just rob banks either. He would just rob anybody who annoyed him. Like that was a thing that he would do. So somebody would make him mad and he would just steal something that he knew that they loved.
I don't like conflict that much. Except with her.
Yeah, with me, you fight with me all fucking day.
Okay. So okay. When you wake up that morning and you go, I'm gonna rob this bank. Was this like your first time robbing anybody or anything, or was Blossom just give you shit? Okay.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, he did it all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. I started actually stealing things from a young age.
When he was trying to be homeless, he had to get ready for that career.
I don't know. I was an only child, and
I was an only child.
Yeah.
I didn't do any of this shit.
Two sides of the same coin. I don't know.
Okay.
But so yeah, I had, it was not the first thing I robbed, but obviously the bank robbery was the first thing that I was like, oh shit, this is like, I don't know, more than a little bit. Like I could get in serious trouble. I can't just, I don't know.
So you're sitting there, you eating your cornflakes in the morning. What did you have for breakfast? You pour
I
yourself
don't
a
think
bowl
I
of Cheerios? No, you're too
Yeah.
nervous to eat.
Yeah, I don't think I ate. Yeah, because at this point too, it was at that point when I started like going there that I got legitimately scared, like pit in my stomach, like just. And I
Were you
remember.
aware that you didn't have to do it?
No, at that point my
Oh,
mind was
okay.
already made up.
Got it.
Right. He's all in.
Yeah. So, but I remember like walking towards the door and then stopping and turning around and walking the other way and then being like, nope, I already said I was going to do it. I'm doing it. And I think I did that twice.
Okay.
Like got to the door, turned around, walked away, got to the door, turned around and walked away. Like, I don't know. I definitely was super scared. I go in there. It's a snowstorm though. So there's only one teller. There's no one else in the bank because of the snowstorm. And I'm just like, excuse me, this is a bank robbery. And he was,
So wait a minute. Did you walk in? Were you armed at the time?
no.
So you decided that you're going to knock off a bank just on the sheer force of presence. You're going to like, they're like, they're not going to resist. You just have to imply, you don't have to actually have a gun. And, you're not going to need to use it. You might, maybe you get shot at, but you're like, you have nothing to defend yourself with. What were you thinking about?
Exactly. Well, also like, I don't know. I felt like I could get past anybody that might try to, be a hero. But I also like I knew that the gun would like carry more time, and there were, it just seemed like I'm not a big gun person anyways. So it didn't, I was like, if I can do it, I knew that I could do it without violence. And that was the point. It was like, I knew that you could just walk in there and say it. If people pass a note, if they do whatever, like you can literally just do it. Like, it's gotta be that easy. So,
right. So okay.
Is this
So
like a how-to? Are we gonna like DIY bank robberies now?
Well, this is an interesting show. People can do whatever they want. We're not liable for that.
I'm just relating my experience.
Yes, right. I'm not condemning nor condoning, anything. So
yeah.
You walk in. So let's take it back. Okay. So you're done doing your dance in front of the bank. You walk back and forth. Your balls drop. They go up into your throat a couple of times. They drop down again. You're getting real sweaty. You walk in, you walk up to the teller, you make eye contact, and like, what is that moment like?
I like for just a second, and then I just looked down, and like, I was like, all right, I don't want him to like catch too much. I had a mask on, just like a ski mask, because I figured like snowstorm, I don't even look that out of place. Like,
right, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I looked down, and he was just like, "Are you serious?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I'm completely serious. Just give me whatever money you have right there." And he was like, all right, I don't have much. I was like, I don't care. Just like, and he was like, all right, here you go. And it was like, I don't know, $2,000. Like it was hardly anything. Right. But at that point I had $2,000 in my hand, and I just walk out the door. I walked around and got in my car a couple blocks away and was gone.
Okay. So as soon as you get in your car and you roll over you start the ignition, like what's going through your mind right now?
I was just like, holy shit. And like the whole time, like I'm definitely like my entire worldview is out of my peripheral, just looking for anything that might be like cops, anything else. Like, am I going to have to, I'm thinking I'm not doing a car chase. I will get out and run. I guarantee I'll get away. And
so I got to ask, did you piss yourself at all? I mean, were you nervous enough? Did you keep yourself together?
Yeah, I was fairly continent the entire time.
That's amazing. That might be the most interesting part of the story, really.
But yeah, I remember I sat there, I took all the stuff off. So I had like a different, color sort of outfit on underneath.
Right.
Put it all in the bag, and I smoked a cigarette, and then I drove home. And
okay.
Yeah.
So what time did you get home?
It was early. Like I hit the bank at like 9:30 in the morning.
Okay.
And then it was like, I was home probably at 10.
Wow. Okay. So you're home at 10. It's now you haven't even had time to even think about what you're going to have for lunch yet. And you're like, I just robbed a bank and all I got was $2,000. Like,
what? Yeah. I just made $2,000 in like a minute.
Well, it's a nice hourly rate. I'll give you that.
Yeah. It's $120,000 an hour.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Not bad.
So I was like, sweet. Like, all right, that's, but at that point too, I was like, wow, it literally was exactly as easy as I thought. So then I did it a number of more times.
How many more times is the number?
Enough.
Tread lightly.
Well, let me put it this way. I, of course, did a Google search and I found a document on the FBI's website that mentions your name. I think it mentions 2 banks.
Yeah.
Is that all they knew about? And is there like a statute of limitations and things you can talk about? I'll let you decide how far you want to go with it.
There were 2.
There were 2.
I understand. So of these 2 banks, and let's just say hypothetically, if you wanted to be more adventurous, how easy do you think it would be? Like, what's the footprint? If somebody is doing it as easy as you were, could they knock off like a dozen banks before getting caught? 2 dozen? How easy do you think it would be?
I'm gonna say like 8 to 10. They could.
Okay.
Like I think is probably a good number because.
A good number.
Yeah, that's like a number you'd want to shoot for, because as you see, and if you read in the document, the second place,
I don't read any. I don't even like talking to you.
I got $10,000.
Yes.
And because there was 3 tellers, and I did this one not in a snowstorm, and this one I was not scared at all. This one I was like, oh no, I know what I'm doing this time. And so I was just like, hey guys, I'm here for this. Give me that. I'll see you later. And I was like, have a good day. I was all smiles. And I was out, and I actually left that one on a bike. And yeah, so, but then, if you did 8 to 10 or so, you could put together pretty close to $100 grand, which at that skeezy point in your life, like, or my life, or whoever's life might be doing this,
Excuse me,
is a heck of a lot of money. And then you can just drive straight to San Francisco, and you can purchase a whole lot of MDMA, and then you can go to Burning Man and have the time of your life.
Okay, so let's back up here for a second before we get into these other adventures. So the document talks about, okay, we'll go with what's in the document. And we understand hypothetically it'd be pretty easy to do this, since we said earlier, the people who are working these banks, they don't have any vested interest. It's not like their name's on the deed bank, right? They don't give a fuck. It's all insurance. They're not going to do anything. You're not going to get shot. It's not a movie. So you just walk in and you're like, guess what? This is a robbery. What did you do to get caught? I mean, the document talked about something that sounded, I thought, completely stupid. No offense. And I don't know if this is correct, so I wanted to ask you very candidly about this. Did you go and put money that you stole from the bank into another bank?
No.
Okay.
Thank God.
No, I did not.
I was about to leave right now. If you did.
Okay. The document, I don't know if I read that incorrectly, but it seemed to imply that you tried to deposit your ill-gotten gains into another bank.
No.
He is that dumb, I will say, but.
So here's the weird thing about that document.
Sure.
Is I had a best friend, and then later when I actually got caught for this, I had a girlfriend and that document is entirely made up of whatever they said. It doesn't matter if it actually happened. That document was created out of their minds.
Out of their testimonies or whatever they're.
Out of their testimonies, because I have to either say, no, I don't agree with any of it and fight the whole thing.
I understand.
Or you
Or
say
the.
you agree, you plead guilty to what they're proposing. So, and
So it's not an a la carte, man. You can't say, well, this part is true and this part is false. We got to go to court to figure that out.
right. So that's the part that, that sucks. Like there's a stuff that says I was armed, and I was not armed. So yeah, that's hard to like, I hate reading through that document for just that reason.
Yeah. Well,
Just
that's
that. Only that's the only part that bothers him.
Well,
Just
yeah,
the
I mean,
lies that we're told about.
absolutely. You gotta, if you look, he's owning up to the story. You want it to be as accurate as you can legally, tell it.
Of course.
Sure. No, he's not gonna use a gun. What is he, a barbarian? No, he's just gonna go like a gentleman. Say, give me the money.
I will politely ask for it.
Yeah.
I will wish them a good day.
And what do you guys
And
want for
I'm
lunch? I
like,
got some donuts on the way. You know what I mean? I got some Craig's on the way. I got some pizzas. Papa John's coming. Whatever you guys want. Nothing personal. Just give me 10 G's.
Yeah.
So you get the 10 G's and you go. At one point in time, you say like, I should have went to a different city. Like maybe Montana is not the place to be robbing banks. I could have maybe got a better return on my investment in time.
But that's the thing. He didn't get caught on his own. It's his dumb friend who ratted him out to save his own ass. So this fucking idiot managed to do this and then just wander around the earth without being caught whatsoever.
How long? Okay, let's back up for a second. How long did you go before between the last bank or the second bank, the second and only of the two banks that you robbed, to the point that you got caught? How much time was in between those 2
It was
points?
like 2 years.
About 2 years. Okay.
'Cause,
When?
yeah,
Who was the first person that you told and probably regret telling your adventure to?
yeah, so literally the only people that knew were my best friend and this girlfriend. So
Did you tell her just so you could, like, impress her and try to get laid? You're like, hey, by the way, this is what I did.
yeah, like I
I'm
think
badass.
she came in during like the tail end of it happening, and so I think she was just like, I don't know, it became obvious at some point.
And was she like, she's like, if you're not gonna, why am I hanging out if you're not gonna be robbing? If you're not gonna be doing this, what am I doing here?
Yeah, no, I don't know. Is that
Yes.
what the girls are into?
Yeah.
Bank robbery?
Blossom's the opposite. She's like, look, if you start robbing basically, what am I doing here? But
Yeah.
scumbags will be the opposite. They'll be like, hey, if we're not committing felonies, there's no love here.
Yeah. But yeah, I told them. But the thing was, is I put together some money, and then I had enough to buy drugs in bulk. And when you buy them in bulk, you like can't do enough of them to.
These are problems of the economy of scale, Blossom. This is important to get into. So let's say you get.
So it's easy to actually still make money and not like you can get high on your own supply and you can still make money
For a while. Yeah, for a while.
Well, you keep flipping it. So I was doing fairly well for myself for those 2 years.
Just a regular entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Tale as old as time.
Yeah. So yeah. I started,
Okay. Sorry to keep interrupting you. So, and I'll shut up for a second. And so you get let's say you get your 12 grand, right? You do your 2 jobs, you get your 12 grand. And let's say to most people, let's just say 10 grand is a lot to buy worth of drugs. I'm sure it probably is, and it is, but if you're going to make a career out of it, you go, well, that's just like the beginning of it. So how long did it take you to take that 12 G's or so, or 10 G's, or 10 grand, and like, how big did it get after that? How much money did you have before you got caught that you want to talk about? And if you don't want to answer, that's fine too.
Yeah, no, it probably got up to like a little over 100, and then like at the time of getting caught and everything, it was probably like 80 or something. Like I was just and a lot of that, like, and so like it all just sort of spiraled out of control because I started like buying so medical marijuana was a really big thing in Montana during that time, and it was kind of the Wild West. Like they would just give a card to literally everybody, and everybody was growing, and there was like warehouses. They had this thing where you could be if you were the caregiver, you could grow, like if you had some paperwork, you could grow my plants and her plants and his plants. And people just got on the radio, they got signed up with like 500 cards, then they can grow 3,000 plants. They put up a warehouse and it's like a bonanza. But then everybody had weed. They thought they were going to sell this weed and put supply and demand, So then they were like, what do we do with all this? And I was like, I will take it off your hands at a paltry amount. And then I will drive like a fool down I-90 to New York, where I can sell the same weed for way more. And
Interesting.
So that's what I was doing, in my spare time, and making most of the money, and then just kind of like I'd go to a festival and whatever else. So, but yeah, I was on one of these trips that I get pulled over by the cops. Was in with my friend, and it was ridiculous. I thought we were going to get out of it. I was like, no, you may not search the vehicle. But we were in South Dakota, and like they literally ended up just searching it, just pulling me out of the car and searching it with no.
Yeah, they don't give a fuck in South Dakota. You're fucked.
Zero fucks. Later on during the trial, the judge's literal words were,
"We don't give a fuck."
Yeah, he said, "We go by the spirit of the law,
right?
Not the letter of the law. You're a drug dealer. There's no way you're getting out of here."
Yeah, South Dakota goes, "Look, boy, we would hang you right now if we could."
Yeah.
Like that's the spirit of the law in South Dakota, from my understanding, especially over things that are silly like cannabis, and trafficking cannabis, just a plant, gives a fuck. Anyway, I'm kind of with Josh on this one here, Blossom. It's just a ridiculous plan here.
Yeah. What are we gonna do?
You should have had a fleet of cargo vans. You should have had he should have diversified his operation. You could have multiple vehicles, and you're not in any of them. And then if one of them gets popped, you go, whatever, it's cost doing business. I guess we stay out of Dakotas, right?
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah. But I'm sure you had a lot of time to think about that in prison after you got popped. So you get pulled over. Tell me all about that exchange. What happens? Let's go into detail on that one.
Yeah, it was really ridiculous. Like, guy literally, like, it was the cop. He was obviously younger. He asked me, I was like, where are you going? I was like, oh, we're going to visit some family. Like, we're coming from Montana. We're going to New York. I got some family out there. And he was like, you guys been drinking tonight? And that's the thing, because it was late at night. We just happened to be going through, and it was a small town. It was like to cut 2 hours off of the whole trip, but you had to go through some back roads and back towns. And he was literally just a DUI stop, just trying to pull people over, see if they were drinking in the middle of the town. So, finally he was like, yeah, you're going, a few miles over the speed limit. It was like literally 4 miles over the speed limit. And he was like, well, you guys, obviously aren't drunk. So I'll just write you a warning, and you guys will be on your way. I was like, thank you, officer. That's great. And so I literally had the warning in my hand, and another cop pulls up. And
do you have dreads at this point?
No. So actually I did not have dreads at this point.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How were you dressed? Were you dressed like a scumbag? Did you have like a button down on? What did you look like?
It wasn't a button down, but like I think I was just wearing like a t-shirt and jeans, basically. Yeah.
Was your face shaven? Did you have like a 5 o'clock shadow at all?
No, I think I had a fairly decent beard.
Interesting.
Okay.
Fat neck.
Yeah, I don't know how fat my neck was at the time.
There's all a tortellini and blood sausage.
Yeah. So, and so the other guy comes up, and he was just like, did you ask them to search the vehicle? And the guy was like, no. And then he was like, can I search the vehicle? And I was like, no. He was like, what? Why?
A little thing called rights, believe in the spirit.
Yeah. And I was like, and this is literally what I said, like, because I was sober at this point, and I told him, I was like, I complied with everything that the other officer gave. Like, I have my warning right here. I wasn't doing anything wrong. So there's no reason you should, I'm already late. Like, I need to go. And he was just like, only a person who's guilty says that. And I was like, that's not true at all. Like, that's so.
Yes, it was true, actually. Unbelievable.
Yeah, but,
No, but.
Hypothetically, in the way it should have been. But yeah, so I tell him no, we go back and forth. He's like, I'm going to get the dogs. And I was like, I don't think you have any dogs. And we just kind of kept going from there. And then eventually.
I get it. I would have done the same thing. Second he starts talking, he's just such an asshole that you're like, you know what? I'm going to pull out all the fucking stops and I will just destroy you. Because that's what he does all the time. Just a huge fucking smile, no matter what's going. House on fire, just fucking teeth gleaming in the sunshine.
So you're giving the guy a big toothy grin. Did any dogs actually show up or no? They're just like trunk.
No, there was never any dogs. I was totally right. They had no dogs.
Of course.
So
does he like force you? Like, how hostile is the situation? Do you like, if I don't comply, it's gonna be a problem for me physically? Like, what's the feeling?
Yeah. At some point, I always grew up with a healthy respect for police. My dad was a cop at one point, not for most of my life, but and he was always like, he's like, yeah, you just want to say yes because they could totally shoot you, and that would be unfortunate. So you never know.
Statistically, they'll get away with it.
Yeah. And so I was like, all right. So yeah. So they were like, I was like, I don't think this is right. I'm gonna have, like, I'll get a lawyer. This isn't gonna stick. And he was like, you need to get out of the car right now. And I was like, all right. So my friend like woke up mid this happening, and so he, I don't know, who knows what, but we got separated at that point because once I was out of the car, then they talked to him. Who knows what he said? But obviously, then they found like, I think it was just 7 pounds.
Just 7 pounds.
And I think there's actually a picture on Google of them standing next to a table.
Yeah. So I'll see if I can find it.
If you just
So
put
you
them
got
on
the
the-
7. So let me ask you this about the 7 pound. Was it all in like 7 1-pound bags? How was it packaged up?
Yeah, it was 7 1-pound bags, and like they were it was like really really nice stuff. So it was all very fluffy. None of it was packed down. Like it was good stuff. And we had some other stuff that was like purely personal, but they found like MDMA and like all this hash oil and
Interesting.
like
I think I may have found it. But that took me to a different ad. I gotta keep looking. That's interesting. So they found like MDA and hash oil. What was the street value of all the stuff you got caught with, do you think?
So I don't know exactly, but I know that there's a news story that says it was $90,000 worth of drugs. Like if you, it's like in the Billings Gazette or something.
Yep, it's Billings. That's what I'm looking at. Okay.
So yeah, I think they said it was like $90,000. I don't think there was, maybe in South Dakota it was worth that much.
Hilarious.
But I don't know, half that maybe.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen here. So everybody has it. So these guys look like problems. I would be afraid of these guys, by the way. Just like instinctively. They look like well, what do I want to say?
Super troopers.
Yeah, they do not, they look like they would be a problem, right? They look like they would be not fun to be around under any circumstance. Look at these guys.
Yeah, they're making bad decisions on the daily.
It's not going to let me. All right. But let me see if I can open the image. Yeah, this looks like. Yep. So that's what you got busted with right there. That's hilarious.
The center guy is the guy that pulled me over, and the guy standing behind him is the dick that was like, "Hey, you should ask him to search this car."
Look at that fat neck.
Yeah, that's the shit you're into, huh?
Yep.
Holy shit, that's breed material.
Yeah. Your childbearing neck.
If he drives out to, Bohemian Grove, it might be truer than you think. See, okay, so you get busted. Okay, so immediately you and your friend get separated.
Yep.
They're like, okay, this is the most action we've seen in this stupid shitty town in probably a century, right?
Oh yeah, dude. Like
except for the Klan rallies and other things and the bodies that we hit out in the cornfields. Other than that, it's like been quiet, right?
My bail was $250,000 cash only.
Hilarious.
Cash only.
Did you put up bail?
No.
So how long were you in that shithole of a local?
I never got out after that.
That's where you spent the whole time?
Well, so I spent a few months leading up to getting sentenced. So I was just in county jail, actually in Sturgis at one point. So I was in Deadwood, South Dakota for a little bit, and then I was in Sturgis in their county jail, and that's where I went to court. And then they sent me to prison there, but they sent me for like 6 months. I literally got like a 2-year sentence that was you only do 25% of, and I'd already done 3 months, so like it was going to be like you spend 3 more months in prison and then you're out of here. So which I knew, like I'd never had any like serious trouble before, and we got everything dropped except for the weed, and so it was still just like a distribution charge for marijuana. So because I did get like a decent lawyer, but it ended up with the whole spirit of the law. Like if we were in any other state, it would have gotten thrown out because they went about the whole search and seizure very poorly.
Right. Of course they did. No warrant. They forced away. It was a nightmare. So you're sitting in South Dakota rotting away for a few months. You get sentenced on these drug charges, right? And you say, okay, you're going to prison. At what point in time does the bank robbing stuff make a reappearance in your life?
So I literally didn't know until probably about a week before I was supposed to get out.
What happened? Did you get a letter? Somebody comes to meet you?
Yeah.
Or like, what the fuck happened?
Asked me a question, or like somebody, I think one of the actually prison people said, hey, it was like my cellmate. He was like, hey, I just want you to know that a guy from the FBI just came by and talked to me and asked me if I had said anything or if I wanted to like rat you out for some sort of good behavior thing or whatever. And I was like, about what? And he was like, he didn't tell me. I was like, I told him I didn't want to do anything. I wasn't going to cooperate. And so he didn't tell me, what it was. So, but I'm like, oh, it's fucking definitely that. And so
you knew right away, like, did your heart sink? You're like, you're about a week away getting out of prison, South Dakota, and you're like, and what, your stomach just falls out?
Yeah.
Nuts. Like, what happens?
I was just like, God, this is going to suck. Like, why? What, how? Like, I had so many questions.
Right.
I think you know how. That's
Well, yeah. Well, basically, I didn't really fully know until.
You know what I've never done in my life? Wondered why I'm going to go to prison.
Yeah.
Not once. It doesn't happen.
Well, it might be if the government continues and you decide you might want to get like an abortion. Yeah. You might get executed.
She was talking about insurance fraud not that long ago, which is basically the same thing I was doing.
Excuse me. I had a reason for that.
Yeah. Okay, so
you're bad. I was bored. We both get up to the same shit.
No, anger and boredom do not equal.
All right, so you're in South. Okay, Josh, so you're in South Dakota.
Yeah.
And you're getting ready. You think you got a week left, and your cellmate tells you, "Hey, I didn't rat you out, but the FBI came." So what happened after? How long before you were face to face with somebody trying to grill you for information?
Yeah, I mean, they were literally just like waiting at the gates, and so then, but they just took me into custody.
So you get out of prison and go right into FBI custody.
Yeah, literally the marshals just were like,
"Did you have time to get on a bus at all?" They're like, "You don't worry about that.
No.
Just get in the car."
Yeah, like it was like, Joshua Swiggin, let's come with us. Like, all right.
Okay.
So then, this was started to be one of the most ridiculous parts about it, is because we're in South Dakota, and obviously we only have to get back to Montana, and they are adjacent to one another. For those not familiar, but when they literally stuck me on a plane, and I flew to Oklahoma, and then I stayed there for a night or two, and then I had to go to Arizona, Phoenix, and I stayed there for a few nights, and then I had to go to Nevada, and I had to stay there for weeks actually, and then from Nevada up to Missoula, Montana.
Now wait a minute. So you're like doing this intercontinental fucking globe trotting here. Where are you staying? Are you going into like cells? Are you going into the FBI building? Are you staying in
county jails?
County jail. Holy shit! So they're taking you from county jail to county jail. What, do they ever give you a reason as to why you're going to so many different county jails?
That's just how Con Air operates. Like they stuff you all on a plane, and they put you, and like eventually you make it to where you're supposed to go, and they don't give a shit about how long it takes you to get there.
Wow. So you could have you had to go one state over, but they send you ass backwards around the country.
Because
who gives a fuck? There's
no connecting flights. There's only connecting flights from Nevada to Missoula.
Right.
So there's like on it in their special airplane, which is a piece of shit, by the way. I feel like there's duct tape on the side.
So in that plane, that is obviously a luxury aircraft. I mean, what was the turbulence like? Was it bad? Was it like?
It was kind of a bigger plane, so the turbulence wasn't like crazy, but it was obviously a very weird.
Were there flight attendants like, "Hello, sir, can I get you?"
Sure. The flight attendants had shotguns.
There's no beverage card. There's no snacks.
No, they feed you like one. They don't.
The customer service is terrible in jail.
Yeah. What if you have to shit on the plane? Does anybody shit on the plane? You got to wait till.
I'm telling you, they don't even feed you like in the last 12 hours before you get on the plane, because they don't want you to go to the bathroom.
That's fucked up.
Like,
so you're gonna fast.
Yeah, they'll just like, here, you can have like these bologna sandwiches that we found under a bus, and like there's some warm cartons of milk that the school down the road was throwing away if you want to eat that, but otherwise just don't shit on the plane.
Did anybody shit on the plane?
No, but I did see
I would have had spite shit on that plane.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Maybe get you doing that.
Yeah, one plane I saw some crazy shit though. There was a native like Native American dude, and he like saw, because in transit you see people that you might not have seen in a long time, that you're in prison together at some point, and in transit was a weird
Just catching up with old friends.
That's right.
But there actually used to be this like system of like a lot of hits would happen in transit, because they would get word from the guards or someone that so-and-so was getting moved and they were going to go through Oklahoma. And we know that one of our gang or one of our whatever is going to be in Oklahoma around the same time. So we get word to him that he needs to take this dude out for whatever reason. Like there's all sorts of shit like that goes on. Because I saw a lot of fights. All of the most dangerous times was in all of that traveling. Like after that, it was cake. But like the transit is the most dangerous place. And because at that point, I was still like a violent criminal. Like they had me classified.
You're still a violent criminal.
Well, I know, but that's how they had me classified. So they had me in these like extra shackles where I couldn't move my hands.
Right.
At all. Like it was like a black box that they put around the cuffs, so you can't.
That's what you get for $12,000.
Yeah, right.
Gains from a bank, right?
And then they would just like put me in with like, I don't know, like the murderers and like the guys who were like nuts. And like I had a lot of murderer cellmates in my time. And
I don't want to know names. I don't want to know the specifics. Other than how many murderers do you think you spent time with in prison?
a good 30.
Interesting. Now, when you are like, you're sitting down, you're like, hey, how's the weather? How's the kids? What was the first time you hit a jugular? Like, what do you guys talk about?
Yeah, it's whatever they want, really.
What? That seems to be the correct answer.
Yeah.
Are they like these guys that have taken human life? I mean, can you tell, like, you walk in a room and you go, hey, this guy is a problem? Like
very, very rarely. Very rarely is it immediately noticeable. But it sometimes like the flashes of it would happen at the weirdest times. Like you would just see them get like very like angry about something small. You just see it in their eyes. You're like, oh, he's like, he could just take one step the wrong direction and it's over. And but the rest of the time they're like quiet and playing chess and reading, like, I don't know, some book on philosophy.
That's correct. Did you get any, of course everybody wants to know, so if they had you classified as like a violent offender or whatever that means on like a federal system, they have you in like a maximum security prison? Like what's your day-to-day prison life like when you were locked up?
Yeah,
we'll kind of skipped over the trial for the bank robbing shit, but we'll get back to that in a few minutes.
Yeah. So during that transit period, they would have me in like separate, cell blocks with the violent people. And that point, it was very like basically 20 hours a day were in your cell, and then you might get a couple hours like in the floor and an hour for lunch, or maybe an hour outside in like a concrete block. But it was very like closed up for that period of time. Once I made it to my like official destination, which was in Fort Dix, New Jersey, it was a low security prison, not a camp. So there's camps where you can like, there's no fences and there's nothing like that. But a low security, there's still the razor wire. You're still in these cell blocks, but you're less locked in. They have some stuff you can do. So I started off like in some pretty heavy stuff, and then I got out into a medium, stayed there for like no time at all, and then went to a low and spent the better portion of my time in the low.
Okay, so let's back up a bit. So you're on Con Air, you're going around, you finally make it, and then when do you discover that the FBI, when do they confirm that, like, hey, we heard about a couple of banks? Yeah,
so literally they never spoke to me at that point, because I think they had it all wrapped up. So the first was my lawyer, and he was like, so we got discovery, and that's basically they have to let you know what evidence they have on you.
Right.
So we get discovery, and it's literally just 2 testimonies, and the testimonies were one from my best friend, and then one was from the girlfriend.
Was that best friend the one that was in the car with you when you got popped?
Yes.
South Dakota? So do
and
you
that-
think, so the one leaves one to ask, sorry, do you think that he got popped in South Dakota? Like, oh, by the way, I know about
Yeah.
Josh's other activities. Let me go. Don't kill me.
So I found out, like, I got to read the whole thing. I got to read his testimony in the discovery and how it happened and everything else. And that was, he rolled immediately.
That sucks. I'm sorry.
Yeah, dude, it was really bad. Like, I don't know. It hurt.
He's dead now, though, so that's
he is
okay.
dead now.
Well, good. We can celebrate then. What happened to the fucker?
Yeah, drug overdose is what they think.
Oh, well, that doesn't seem. I don't know if I should be celebrating that or not. I'll leave it up to you guys.
Yeah, I don't care.
I celebrate every death.
Yeah.
All right. Mark that
Population
for the promo.
Yeah, we need less people. So they asked him, or he basically was like, yeah, I have all this stuff. Can you please, I don't want to get a lot of time, because he thought we were going to get a lot of time. We were not going to get a lot of time. We were two white kids with no real records. Like, they were going to let us off easy. So when they told him, or when he told them, they basically said, sure, we'll help you if we can. And then they just took a step back and they let us get sentenced in South Dakota. We got the exact same sentence. We got out at the exact same time. And then they were like, oh, well, I think now we can use this, but since you already did your sentence, we can't really give you anything. So he got nothing for it. Like, we did the same amount of time. Maybe that's why he's dead. I don't know. But
Interesting.
he so when I got there and I was going over with my lawyer, they asked, he said, like, he basically told them that, and he said that the girlfriend knew about it. Then they got the girlfriend. They said, because they can lie to you. They're like, you'll go to prison if you don't tell us.
Right.
He's like, okay. So she
There's a lot of like that. People are,
Yeah.
they can be very intimidated. They're trained in
yeah
persuasive tactics.
she tells them, and then but my lawyer was literally like, I have never seen a discovery so thin. They don't have any actual evidence. They have two people saying the same thing. And he's like, now the problem, he's like, as a lawyer, I want to fight this because it's the type of thing I want to fight. We got a good case. However, you don't, I don't know, they have some ridiculous win percentage in defense. And, I don't know if it's like 98%, of cases they don't settle, they win. So he's like, if you say yes, we can probably get you 3 to 4 years. If you say no and lose, which even though you have a good case, it's likely that you'll lose. And then you'll probably get like 10 years. And I was like, he's like, but if one of them didn't show up, and I was like, well, I don't have any way to make that happen. Yeah. So I kind of had to make that choice there, and I just
Who got
decided,
the 80 grand? That's what I'm still mad about. I want it.
right. So the girl disappeared with a lot. However, she did get like
Is she dead?
I don't know. I have no idea. Because she just
Let's
left.
back up. Okay, so let's back up. So you're sitting there, kind of jumped ahead a little bit. Blossom has a bunch of contacts nobody else in the show has. So let's back up here for a second. So you get out. The FBI is basically lying in wait for you to get out. They like, we got a good case. We think whatever. We take it, put it in the federal system to get the the district attorneys or whatever, however the fuck it works. We've all seen Law and Order. So get the lawyers for the government, right? And they say, okay, time for discovery. We have this compelling, hard-hitting evidence called 2 testimonies from just, the epitome of virtue and veracity here.
Yeah. Hang on, I need more booze.
Okay, great. So we'll continue. So you're there, right? And you find this out. And then your lawyer goes, look, they have a really great track record of prosecuting this shit. It's likely, even though we have a good case, they're going to win anyway. And if they do win, you're looking at a decade in prison, probably. Otherwise, you could just take a plea and get like 3 to 4 years and maybe get out early on some good behavior.
Yep. So that's the choice I made. I don't know. I said it's not worth it to me. But
So as soon as you didn't come home from South Dakota, your girlfriend at the time is like, well, I guess I've taken some cash and leaving, and she just made off with the spoils.
yeah, so I part of that amount of money too is in drugs and other things that I had,
Right.
just stash that I was whatever. So
Commodities, liquidity, got a little bit of everything.
yeah, there were some people that kind of realized what had happened to me and knew that she was there with a whole bunch of drugs. And so they basically said, so she made off with a good deal of cash. I think she made off like 20 grand in cash that
Okay.
was there. But some other guys, some sleazy guys that I knew came over and they took all the drugs and they just were like, these are ours now.
Yeah, of course.
And, you know, even if I got out, they were going to be like, come get him, motherfucker. Like,
Yeah, like, well, the guy kind of left that behind. Like, had some time to think. Maybe I don't need him back.
so yeah, that's where all that went. But
Interesting. So, how much time did you do in prison for the bank robbery? And before you answer that, you didn't even have to go to trial then, right? So there was no trial. You took the plea.
Yep.
And then do you have to go to court for sentencing? How does that work?
yeah, you go to court for sentencing, and they basically ask you. And actually, it was pretty funny. I made my lawyer was like, "You do not want to say anything." When they say, "Do you want to say anything?" You say no. You say, "No, sir, I do not want to say anything." And I was like, "I'm going to say something."
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm with you on this one, Blossom. Oh boy, I wasn't with you up until this moment, but now I'm with you. Okay, so what did you say?
Yeah. So basically, I was just like, "Look, I understand that what I did was a heinous thing. However, I was very polite when I did it. I wished them good day. I said please and thank you, because a lot of it was centered around when the prosecutor was trying to sentence and he was saying, I think he deserves this much. He was saying the fear that, you know, that I scared these people, that I did, you know, trauma that can't be undone. And they were asking, the bank was like, we need thousands of dollars for like psychiatric bills. And like, there was all sorts of stuff and they wanted me to pay for it. So I was like, there's no way. I was like, look, I understand I'm an idiot, but like nobody was scared. Like, are you scared of me now? There's no way. Like, so I went on a rant, and the judge was cool enough to be like, you know, I think you're right. And so I literally, I didn't have to pay any extra stuff for the psychiatric bills and everything else like that to the bank. So I think it went over well in that regard.
Dumbest thing.
What was that? Yeah, I'm kind of with you. So there's like a thin line between like courage and stupidity, probably, right? Probably a pretty thin line. So when you get inspired to have this impromptu speech, take me into that moment. What's going through your head at that point in time? Are you feeling it? Like you're like, is it like pouring through you? Or are you like sweating each sentence? Like what's going on?
I was just like, there's no way I'm going to pay for these people. They were not scared. I was like, one of them was laughing. Like, I know it. Like, cause that, you know, the bank in question, like I walked in there with like finger guns. I was like, hey guys, like nobody was scared. And so I was like, the injustice, I must speak my piece.
Did the bank have security footage that was revealed as part of discovery, or did they have anything at all?
Like there was like just a picture of me looking like Sasquatch, man. Like there's no way. Like, yeah, like it was just a big like blob.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you go in there, you give this award-winning speech, you plead your case, and then you get sentenced. And then where do you go to serve your sentence?
Well, I literally had to go directly back all of those places that I said last time.
Yeah, reverse Con Air.
Yeah, reverse Con Air until I got to Oklahoma. And then from Oklahoma, we went to Philly. And then Philly, I had to stay at for like a month. And then yeah, and then I got to New Jersey, which
nothing good going on in Philly.
But yeah, but once I was there, it was, instead of cells with like 2 people, you had these larger rooms that would have like 12 people. And they were these very weird mixes, especially in the beginning, because you could get in a room that you wanted to be in. Like you could sort of like say, hey, I've been here for a while. We all get along together and we want to be in the same room. But in the beginning, they would just like split it up, like 3 white guys, 3 black guys, 3 Puerto Rican guys, and 3 mixed. And it seemed very like they had a system, you know, for like if you
That's called racism.
but like racism is out of control in there. Like it is literally the 50s in prison, no matter what.
That's what all of our like pop culture fiction tells us. Like, hey, it's systemic and endemic. It's like it's not everything's segregated by race. And I was going to ask, kind of try to find a way to ask you about that. It's like, is that true? Is it really
It is
that heavily?
Yeah. Yeah. Early on in one of my times, there was a black guy who offered me a piece of cake from his like tray. He was just like, I'm not going to eat this. You want it, man? And just pushed it over to me. And I literally had a bunch of white dudes come over to me and they were like, look, we know that this is your first time in prison, but we're just going to let you know right now that like, you don't take that from them. You don't touch stuff from them. If he's got a hairbrush, if he's got this or whatever that, you know, like you want to borrow, like, don't. You come to one of us, like we got you, but you don't touch stuff from them.
Do you think that guy was giving you the cake? He was trying to set you up to give you a hard time, or was he just being cool?
Honestly, no. Transit isn't that was the weird part about transit too, is that there was people in there that were fresh and had no idea. And then there was a lot of really hardened guys getting moved. So like that's why it was so chaotic, because you know, once you actually get into like a real prison, you know, everybody kind of knows their role, and it's very it's like a machine. You know, the chaos is brief when it erupts.
So in the time that you're in there, how long did you serve in prison for the bank robbery stuff?
4 years.
Okay, 4 years. And you said you served in your time in New Jersey somewhere?
Yep, Fort Dix.
Fort Dix. Okay, so you're in Fort Dix for New Jersey. What year did you go in?
Fort Dix. Sorry.
Yeah. So Fort Dix, with all the ladies running around, what year did you go into Fort Dix?
2012.
Okay.
So because during all that transit, you know, they gave me 4 years, but about a year of that was
on a plane.
Yeah, either on a plane, in transit, or during the sentencing, you know, part of it. So that goes towards it. And then I spent about 3 years at Fort Dix.
Did you ever, I'm going to ask you a personal question. You don't have to answer it, of course. Did you ever have a moment where you just kind of, where it all got to you, you broke down, and you're like, fuck. And it just like, or did you keep your cool the whole time you were in there?
No, there was definitely some breakdown moments.
You had to go to the hole.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
That was from smoking weed. Like I would get weed in prison. And I think this guy told on me. It was really weird how it happened. I don't know. But they basically just drug tested me, and I tested positive. And if you test positive in prison, then they're like, well, gotcha. And
yeah.
So I had to go in the hole. I spent, it was 55 days. It's kind of a long time.
In solitary?
Yeah. So about 30 something of those were solitary. And then they put another person in with me for a little while.
Okay. So we got so much to unpack here. So we're kind of running out of time here, but this is crazy. This has like a whole other dimension. So a couple things. First off, let's talk about the first night you're in solitary and the last night you're in solitary. And then let's talk about who you were before you went into solitary and who you were when you came out. That's a long time to spend with nothing but your own thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know though.
He has like 2 thoughts. That's it. It's food, and then
they can just
like
play ping pong with
the
each other.
next time that he's gonna eat.
Yeah. So they gave me books, and I think that was what sort of kept me sane. Is 'cause I was a prolific reader growing up, so it became very natural to just dive into that. So I think I fared well, you know, relatively. The first time I was just pissed when I got in there. I was like, fuck, because I had like a good setup, and you kind of lose everything that you have like built up, like any shit that's in your locker, they just throw away basically.
Yeah, they're like, fuck you.
Yeah. So
you gave away your rights, remember? We have
exactly.
that now.
So yeah, so I, you know, but I was just kind of pissed at that point. But then you get into like weird games. There's this thing called fishing, which I think you've probably seen in certain prison movies and things, where you get like a string that you can, you know, make out of literally your clothes or anything else, and something with a little bit of weight, and you fling it out under your door and down the hallway in front of somebody else's door, where they can then attach something to it and you can pull it back. So guys are like trading their medications like this, or their, you know, food, or like it was this whole thing. And then
Hey man, anybody got some blood thinners?
Yeah.
No, I got some oxy though.
Yeah. But at that point, you're like, you've got all day to just sit there and figure out how to.
Be more of an asshole.
At one point, I literally, and so like, and she hates that this is even a real thing, but I juggle.
Oh,
And I'm like too good at juggling.
don't talk about it.
Good enough to bring it up. It's good enough to embarrass Blossom. Let's dig into it.
Yeah. But like I can juggle swords, fire. Like I'm really good with,
swords and fire on swords and swords that are on fire.
Yeah. So, but I had all this newspaper. This guy had all this newspaper, and they were throwing it out. So I asked for it, and
I don't even want to look at you anymore.
and I took water and the toothpaste that they would give us, and I would wet the pieces of newspaper, and I would roll it up with some toothpaste, and then it would get sticky. And I literally made myself juggling pins out of just newspaper and toothpaste. And so I was juggling in there, like I was
what were their names?
Juggling pins.
Yeah. This one's Bobby. This one's Ricky.
Yeah.
This one's Susie.
They did get taken away from me though. Because they were like, these could be weapons. And I was like, they're obviously not.
What am I gonna do? Rob a bank with these?
Yeah.
Well, actually, you could.
Yeah.
You don't even need them. Yeah.
Yeah. That's overkill.
All right. So you get out and you get out of solitary and get back into the general population or whatever. What's that like? You get in there, you're in there for 4 years, right? So like I imagine you go through different phases psychologically while you're in there. Like first you're probably like, oh man, it's just 4 years. You got to start rationalizing to yourself, it's just 4 years. I'll be out of here in 4 years. And it's maybe some point in time, 6 months, 18 months, 24 months in, does you ever go down to a deep, dark place? You're like, fuck, this is like, I'm here forever. Like this just feels hopeless.
I think that was like the first
week with Blossom.
Honestly, solitary was like the tipping point. Yeah. Up until solitary, because I was just like smoking weed and like they would get acid in sometimes, and like I was just I was going to bed super late. I don't know. I just wasn't like doing anything. I was just killing time,
Yeah.
And that's what everybody was doing, was killing time. And then after I got out of solitary, I was like, man, I still have a lot longer to be here. Like I should probably stop killing. Like it's still the only time I've got. I should probably start doing something with it.
So what did you start doing with your time then?
So they had a music room that you could like just check out a guitar and go like play it in a gym for a certain amount of hours, but you could get a job where you worked at the music room, and they would have like a little room. You could only plug electronic instruments in this one room, but they would let people start like little bands. And so I got a job, talked to some people, and I got a job in there. And so it was literally like 8 hours a day, and I just played guitar or like hung out around music for like that whole time. I also learned Spanish pretty well, and just started working out, and between music, working out, and sleeping, that was basically it.
Okay, so you get out, right? You spend your 4 years, and you're a little more cultured. You got some musical talents. You're like, I've been looking at music theory all day for 8 hours a day for a few years, and you're like, I've been working out. At what point in time do you meet Blossom and sweep her off her feet?
This was not that, like, it was pretty quick.
I was still in the halfway house.
Yeah. I was in my little shitty downtown apartment, like fresh out of my divorce, still married technically. And
I had to get a pass and lie about where I was going.
Yeah, he was seeing the dentist every time that he was over.
So you're cleaning his teeth with your tongue, and he's lying about where he is.
Yeah.
I was trying to get her to like hire me at my her bakery so that I could get out whenever. Yeah.
And then 4 minutes passed and I got knocked up, and here we are.
So wait a minute. So you're doing time in Fort Dix, and where's your halfway house? In Buffalo, or where's your halfway house?
Rochester. So I knew nothing about Rochester, but my mom moved there after while I was in there.
He had to go live with his mommy. That's what they require.
Yeah, I had to go live with my mommy.
Let me ask you this. So you're sitting there at mommy's house, right, in Rochester, and you're like, I'm going to go to the House of Guitars. When was your first trip to the House of Guitars?
Not long after I had been there.
It was right down the road.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to go on Dewey Avenue, go to the smoke shop, get a slice of pizza the size of an elephant ear. Like, what's going on? You know?
Yeah. I don't know. Like it's weird, but even the small amount of time that I did, the shock of being out it's a little overwhelming.
Sure.
Like food and everything else. Like I remember I got car sick, and when I was driving, because I hadn't gone over, 7 miles an hour running
on the ground, at least
on the ground for who knows how long. Like, so
right.
we got in the car and I got car sick, and like I'd asked my mom for like a Moe's burrito or something. I was like, that's what I was thinking about the whole time. And she got it for me, and I couldn't even finish it. And so yeah, so like all of these things like that thought of like, it's gonna feel great, and like it didn't really feel that great at first. It took a little bit to kind of realize. But then even walking, like I just was on top of the world when I had to go job hunting, and they're like, all right, you got 4 hours, here's your resume, go walk around Rochester. And I would just walk around Rochester. I was like, this is the coolest shit. Like I'm just walking by myself, no shotguns are aimed at me.
Right.
Shackles around my ankles.
No one's trying to, bend me over a bag of rice and knife me in the asshole. This is a good life,
Yeah.
So at one point in time, you get out and you go, okay, look, I got some options, right? I'm at the halfway house. I got some options. I got to look for a job. Do you ever think about like, you're a young man. How old were you when you got out? Did you ever think about going on like permanent disability? I know a lot of people get out of prison. They go, I've been a convict. It's going to be hard for me to get hired. You're like, I didn't do enough time to really completely destroy my life. I can get back into the job market.
I never thought about it, honestly.
Yeah, we should explore that, because you are an idiot. I always say that I want to be paid as his caretaker, and I should be, but no one will listen to me.
Yeah.
Well, they will, but you got to get married. So.
Never mind.
All right.
Thanks for ruining that.
You're welcome. That's what I do. I like to ruin people's fun.
Yeah. But no, I don't think it was ever a choice. I thought, I was like, I'm going to get a great job right out of prison. Like I'm just.
What led you to be so deluded to think that you would get a great job out of prison? Like that seems statistically unlikely.
Yeah. That's how my mind works.
That's how this fucking idiot has gotten every job. Like he just lies his way through.
Well, not recently, right?
Yes. He had no fucking idea what he was doing. He was just like, hey, I've got big teeth and I like to show them. And that's it. You should hire me.
So when you got your big teeth, you're looking at getting to be a coder. You're like, I'm going to walk the path of the nerd wizard. Yeah. And you said you started doing that during the pandemic. At what point in time did you think to yourself, wow, I'm actually decent enough to just like, I think I can get a job?
The second that he started, he has the confidence of Gwyneth fucking Paltrow. It's insane.
You're like, this is my new path. This is it.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing.
I'm probably a prodigy.
Yeah, I call him a space cowboy because every 5 fucking seconds he's like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna lasso the moon, and it's like, why? Stop it! Just there have been so many. What else were you gonna be?
Well, remember I was gonna be Bank Robbins.
Yeah, you were gonna be Bank Robbins. I remember that.
Yeah, I was gonna be Bank.
A motivational speaker.
Yeah, it was like Tony Robbins, but
Yeah. Well, that's going to be the name of this episode, by the way, is Mr. Bank Robbins, just so you know.
As well it should.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're in the pandemic. You're like, I'm going to go on like a nerd boot camp or something. I'm going to start hacking around. How many places did you interview at before you got your current job? As you guys know, I'm in that industry.
He interviewed at one place and they fucking hired him.
Did you have to do a coding test?
Yeah. So I did apply. I applied at a lot of places though.
You applied at like 5 places.
No, I applied at like 25 places, and they were all like, no. And they were like,
they should have been. They were correct, yes. By the way.
Yeah, they were like, you have 0 experience.
Right.
So I was like, oh,
you're a 57-year-old man with no experience. Like, what are you doing here?
Exactly. But no, it's dumb luck, as most of my life. Basically, I was talking to a recruiter on LinkedIn. It was for this place called Branch. I noticed that it was in Minneapolis. I got a mentor pretty early on, and this mentor worked at Target, and I was like, okay, they're both in Minneapolis. I wonder if he knows anybody at this place. So I call him. He's like, you're fucking kidding me. I'm playing video games with this guy right now. Like,
Hilarious.
Tell him to get, the interview. So, but I will say my mentor went really hard for me. And he was like, no, honestly, I'm not trying to gas you up. You have learned this quicker than anyone else that I've ever tried to teach. So like, I absolutely think you're a safe bet. He vouched for me.
Well, here's the thing, boss. Here's what you have to understand. There's a lot in common between the mindset of being like a successful criminal and being a software engineer. There's a lot of problems to solve. There's a lot of things you have to come up. Requirements are constantly changing. Things are shifting in the field. You don't know if you're going to make it through the next sprint, by the way. It's a very, very similar lifestyle.
But this man is a moron. Like the fact that he has done anything is mind-boggling. Homeless?
What the fuck does that say about you, Blossom? Blossom, what does that say about you?
I know. This is as bad on me as it is on him. Believe me, I know.
Yeah, I did have to make an app for them, though. They just asked me for something simple. They said, we want a fully functional to-do app. It needs to be to do these things and, try to make it look pretty. And we want it. So,
what framework did you use? Did you use React?
No, I'm Android native. So I was just using, Kotlin and the Android framework and a JetBrains IDE.
By the way, Kotlin is my favorite language.
Dude, it's so great. It's like it really
is the best one.
Yeah,
it's the best.
It's so good.
All the power of Java, but none of the horse shit.
Yeah, and you can just write things, and if you don't like it, just extension functions. Come on.
Stop smiling.
He really does. I put him to the test here. He really does have it.
Yeah.
So, do you know about reified generics?
I basically know what they do, but that's the part of the code that I click into that I'm like, I can't. Here's the thing. I would never pass a whiteboard test. Absolutely not. I would never, like, data structures, algorithms. If you put me on leak code right now, I would fail horribly.
I might too, by the way, just so you know. But one of the things that's interesting about Kotlin, and this is a little nerd homework for you. Last I checked, they had reified generics, which is like, you have a generic method. You go, okay, I'm going to pass in a type. Let's say this generic method works on lists of, drug bust, and everything that descends from drug bust will be able to go into this list type, right? And so what's interesting about Kotlin and reified generics, and somebody I'm sure will correct me if I'm wrong about this in terms of Kotlin having reified generics, but when you write that code in Java, the type information is erased and is not stored at compilation time. Yep. Meanwhile, with a reified generic, that information is stored and it makes it much more powerful. So,
well, but correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that basically what Kotlin's sealed classes are doing?
Well, no, typically, they could be. You could implement an interface with a sealed class, but basically, a sealed class means it's sealed. Like, you're not. It has to do with the access and the members in the class and stuff like that. It's a good question, by the way, Blossom.
But yeah, no, I really did. I fell in love with coding, and I was like, oh no, I really, really like this. And
then instantly thought that he should be hired for a 6-figure salary.
But I'm also great at interviews. Like,
yeah, that's obvious from your prison sentence.
Yeah, yeah, I had 6 interviews. It was a lot.
Yeah,
it felt like a lot. It's definitely more interviews than I'd ever had anywhere else.
So how long, why don't you take me through that day when you got your offer letter?
It was so bittersweet because we were so scared about background checks. And
that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, because like at first we got the offer letter and I was just like jumping, like we were yelling. I was like, oh my God, like this is it. Like this is like the life-changing thing.
Correct.
And then, yeah, and then it just immediately, like, she was like, all right, and so if you just want to sign these paperwork, we'll get like a quick background check and like everything will be fine. And it just all the heart, it was just like, no.
Were you upfront with them about your past during the interview process? Where you're like, we'll just see what comes up?
Which I'm gonna let any criminal out there or all the people who took my bank robbing advice, robbed a bank and are now in prison for that. Don't tell them about your crime. There's no reason to. There's literally zero reason to ever tell an employer about your crime because unless they ask, I'm saying don't lie, but they don't.
I get you.
but they're not going to ask, and like
I would ask
a lot of
instantly.
places you can't. Like there's a lot of laws against it. Definitely know the laws.
Right,
But
there's a whole criminal justice system, right? Like once you've paid your debt to society, you should be allowed to reintegrate if you can.
right. So there's no reason to, I don't know. And the laws are changing in a good way in that regard. I'm actually part of a group called Underdog Devs that is helping, formerly incarcerated people, learn to code. And it's
What is it? What's the name again?
Underdog Devs.
Yeah, plug everything.
Yeah, it was started by a guy who did 18 years in prison himself and is now an iOS developer. But they have a whole crew of mentors that mentor, everything from, React and JavaScript and, web development to, native development. And it's getting some big backers, and they've just started like a stipend program where if you're part of the program and you're coming to all the things, you can, yep, that's it.
Cool. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
They'll actually pay for you to not have a job for the last like 3 months so that you can get really ready and get a job.
Oh, so basically it's kind of like like a paid boot camp, almost like you're like basically a student. Like, okay, we're gonna do a deep dive.
Like that is the cool thing, because people aside from him typically just get into such shitty, like if you have a record, you're screwed. You're gonna work in fucking fast food for the rest of your life.
Or go on disability, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's it. So like this, I stand behind the Underdog Devs.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. I'm excited about it.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's all the time. Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah.
We're gonna get this out there. I think it's a fascinating story. I think Blossom
It's not that great.
because I think she's intimidated by your glory and she has to put you down to make herself feel better, but really deep down inside, she's really sensitive.
That sounds exactly right.
I got her number. And on that, we're going to hit the stop on the recording button. All right, everybody, have a good night.